The word Q is ironic. It's just a Q with a bunch of silent letters waiting in a line. The film starts at an underground fight circuit. Carter Ford is dominating in the ring, and a bar owner named Frankie has her eyes on him. After Carter beats his opponent, another fighter, Elwood Dalton, enters the ring. Carter recognizes him and refuses to fight, which means Dalton still gets the money without having to fight. Outside, a guy stabs Dalton after he lost $500 from the fight, but once he sees that Dalton is barely fazed, the guy starts running. Frankie approaches Dalton as he tends to his wound, saying she runs a Roadhouse bar, actually called the Roadhouse, in a Floridian community, Glass Key. Frankie admits that her original intent was to recruit Carter for a job, but Dalton's exceptional skills have shifted her preference in his favor. Offering Dalton $5,000 per week for a month and a place to stay, Frankie asks him to consider working as a bouncer to protect her establishment. Dalton refuses her offer, but accepts her contact number, and she leaves. That night, Dalton seems depressed and stops his car on a train track, attempting to kill himself by letting a train hit him while he's in the car. When the train approaches, he changes his mind and tries to move forward, but the train hits the back of his car, leaving it wrecked. Miraculously, he is unharmed. The next day, Dalton arrives in Glass Key. He meets a teenage bookstore owner named Charlie and her father Stephen. They give Dalton a free book and direct him to the Roadhouse. He arrives and meets employees Billy and Laura before getting to work. At night, Dalton watches as Billy and the other male employees have to handle rowdy guys. Moments later, a biker gang led by Dell arrives and begins to torment the staff and patrons. Dalton calmly attempts to speak to Dell, but he only antagonizes Dalton. He steps outside towards the gang's bikes to lure them out before egging Dell on. He threatens to kill Dalton until the man smacks him and proceeds to knock all the bikers down. Dalton then drives the gang to the hospital himself. On his way out, he is chastised by a doctor named Ellie for bringing them there, since they take up priority from more deserving patients. After he charms her, she tends to his wounds. Dalton sleeps in a boat on the lake where Frankie warns him there is a crocodile living nearby. As he sleeps, Dalton dreams about his last round as a UFC fighter. Dell and his goons arrive on a yacht owned by crime boss Brandt, whom they work for. They inform him about Dalton and how he mopped the floor with them. Brandt orders them to get rid of him by any means necessary, as he sees Dalton as a threat to his business in town. Dalton soon finds that the locals quickly know who he is, and other thugs back off when they see him. He mentors Billy and the other guys on how to handle belligerent patrons. Dalton points out one guy that has a concealed knife, and he disarms him before kicking him out. After a night of work, Dalton starts to walk home when Dell and his goons attempt to run him over in Dell's girlfriend's truck. They manage to knock Dalton off the bridge, but he survives. When he gets home, he finds Dell waiting there for him with a gun. Dalton fights him again and knocks him into the water. Although Dalton tries to save Dell, the crocodile makes a meal of Dell first. Dalton later learns of the shady business going on in town through Charlie. After he leaves the bookstore, a pair of Brandt's goons try to force Dalton to go with them, threatening him with a gun. However, he breaks the fingers of one guy and leaves, telling them that their boss can meet him at the bar. Brandt learns that Dalton cannot be easily defeated, something that even his imprisoned criminal father, Gerald, becomes aware of. Gerald contacts Knox, his toughest and nastiest goon, to head to Glass Key and deal with Dalton. This is after Knox walks out into the street in Italy nude, after having an affair with a married woman, then assaulting a guy for his jacket, and then setting a shop on fire. Knox shows up at Brandt's house, strikes him, and reveals that he was hired by Brandt's father, a revelation that displeases Brandt and his criminal associates. Dalton goes on a date with Ellie, who takes her ex's boat out into the water. She tells Dalton that she knows about his past from Google, something he has been trying to hide from everyone. Although he tries to walk away from Ellie, she gets him to stay, and they kiss. Later on, Dalton is found by the sheriff and his dirty cops. The sheriff orders and threatens Dalton to leave town, but he refuses. The cops then start to assault Dalton, with the sheriff getting ready to execute him until Ellie drives up and slaps him. She takes Dalton with her and informs him that the sheriff is her father. What's more is that he is in cahoots with Brandt. Ellie then sincerely tells Dalton that he needs to leave town. That night at the Roadhouse, Brandt shows up and approaches Dalton. He starts to taunt him about his past in the UFC, revealing that Dalton left the sport because he killed his opponent in the ring even after the referee had called the fight. The opponent was also his best friend, and Dalton has been haunted by this ever since. After Brandt leaves, Knox arrives to start trouble. He beats on Billy and the other guys, leaving Dalton to step in. Knox proves to be a challenge for Dalton, but Knox ends up being surprised that Dalton manages to get back on his feet after a beatdown. Cops arrive and manage to control the situation, followed by Ellie, who provides medical attention. The next day, as Dalton starts to leave town, he sees the bookstore on fire, done by Brandt's goons Sam and Vince. Dalton is told that Charlie and Stephen are at the hospital but are alive. He goes to Brandt's place and finds Vince, who threatens him with a gun. Dalton punches him in the throat, causing his trachea to collapse, and Vince ultimately suffocates. While disposing of the body, Dalton sees Mo, a member of Dell's gang who is the least rotten of them all. He tells Dalton of a meeting Brandt and his goons are going to have early the next day. Dalton goes by the water and finds one of Sheriff's corrupt deputies carrying a large case full of money onto a boat. He knocks the deputy out and plants Vince's body there with him to frame the deputy for his death. The sheriff finds Dalton and informs him that Brandt kidnapped Ellie. Dalton makes it to Brandt's yacht and sees the sheriff there with him, allowing him to figure out that the sheriff deliberately lured him onto the boat. However, Brandt admits that he really did kidnap Ellie. Before the goons can gang up on him, Dalton blows up the boat he arrived, which belonged to Ellie's ex, on to disorient everybody. The yacht starts to sink as a result, and Dalton beats the crap out of the goons before finding Ellie. She breaks through the window and gets out along with Dalton. Knox shows up in a skiff boat and tries to finish Dalton off while Brandt grabs Ellie and takes her onto a motorboat. Dalton makes it onto the motorboat while Knox falls into the water. Dalton fights Brandt and causes the motorboat to crash just outside the Roadhouse, sending Brandt flying onto the roof. Meanwhile, Knox gets out of the water and steals a truck before crashing it into the Roadhouse. When Brandt demands that Knox finally kill Dalton, Knox has enough of Brandt's behavior, and he snaps his neck. Dalton and Knox then go for round 2, with Knox once again proving to be a beast, until Dalton manages to gain the upper hand and takes Knox out by stabbing him with wooden shards until he is down. The sheriff shows up and offers to cover for Dalton as gratitude for saving Ellie. She and Dalton share one last look before he leaves. Frankie, Billy, Laura, and the others then start to try and clean up the destruction of the Roadhouse while still staying open for business. Just as Dalton gets ready to leave, he stops by the bookstore to see Charlie and Stephen there once more. He says goodbye to them and leaves them with the cash bag that he took from the deputy. Dalton then hops on a bus to his next destination. During the credits, Knox is shown to have survived the fight. He beats up all the doctors and walks out of the hospital with nothing but a gown. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy to hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice, just to be sure. It would be best if you watched the whole movie. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe for more videos like this.